There are three major things that are going to hit the fan whether we like it or not. The first is the second wave of residential and commercial mortgages that are up for renewal. Currently, we are sitting in the eye of the storm. We are in the mess that we're in today because of the first subprime wave. The second one is on the horizon, and the unfortunate part about the whole equation is that it's much larger than the first wave. Just like any tsunami, the back end of the storm is typically much worse than the front end. According to the chart from the International Monetary Fund regarding the monthly mortgage resets, the largest part of this cycle is yet to arrive, somewhere in mid to late 2011. Remember, the first wave, which was much smaller, caused the markets to drop roughly 30 to 40%, according to the S&P 500. Real estate prices plummeted as we moved into this so-called recession. The second issue is that governments all over the world continue to go into a deeper and deeper deficit by printing more and more of this made-up monopoly money. When will the US government realize that they can't continue to spend roughly $3 billion more per day than they are currently making? When will they realize that they must let the incompetent companies fail and the competent ones take over, rather than bailing out the weak corporations and passing these expenses onto the taxpayer? We all know that the more and more that you print of something, the less and less it's worth. What people don't realize is that every currency that has ever been printed has eventually failed at one point in time. There has been over 3,800 fiat currencies in world history that have eventually failed. Sooner or later, they all die. As soon as you remove God's money, which is gold and silver, and replace it with man's money, which is paper, the life expectancy of that currency drastically declines and it slowly begins to die. Throughout history, the average life expectancy of a currency, once it is no longer backed by a tangible asset, such as gold, silver, is only about 30 to 40 years. As we have seen, the US is now well overdue. Once President Nixon took the US off the gold standard in 1971 without the approval of Congress, there was no longer any accountability, and this gave the government the ability to print however much money that they felt they needed. From the time the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, it took 84 years until 2007 to put roughly $825 billion of base money, which is coins and bills, into circulation. In just the last 2 years, they doubled that amount to about 1.7 trillion. See, in the 80s, we used to speak about millions. In the 90s, it was billions. Now we hear the word trillions. Just to put $1 trillion into perspective, $1 trillion is $1,000 bills stacked roughly 67 miles high. This is an astronomical amount of money, which we will soon feel the effects of, as it's just a matter of time. Also, the more and more money that is created out of thin air causes inflation to kick in at ridiculous rates. What people don't realize is that inflation is a hidden tax that we all pay for. We may not see and feel the effects of this as things slowly begin to increase in value as we quickly begin losing the purchasing power of our currency. This hidden tax is another way of how the banks and governments get the people to pay dearly for their great mistakes. Bank robbers no longer wear masks, rather suits and ties, while they rob the banks and the people's accounts from the inside out. Welcome to the largest cash heist in history, as is taking place right before our very own eyes.